I call to order the City Council business meeting for November 19th, 2025. City Clerk Clark, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember O'Rear.
Here.
Councilmember Roop.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Roche.
Here.
Councilmember Pinkerton.
Here.
Councilmember Hutchings.
Here.
Mayor Shoemaker.
Here. Please rise as you are able and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4 is a presentation. We have a proclamation commemorating the 250th anniversaries of the founding of the U.S. Army, Navy, and Marines, and I call on Councilmember O'Rear to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the ability to do this. I want to, everyone probably noticed the flags in the room, wondered why. Well, here's why. This is the year of the 250th anniversary of these three branches of the Armed Forces of the United States. I want to thank Robbie and his Parks and Rec staff for getting these flags and putting them up, and whoever else on staff helped with this. I guess I can probably speak for us at council. We all have a tremendous admiration for the United States military, and this is a privilege of a council member to propose proclamations, and I hope that y'all don't think I'm wasting time or whatnot, but I consider this a privilege. I want to thank the mayor for his cooperation in this. He'll read the proclamation after I finish my few remarks here, and just to appreciate all the veterans here. Veterans get holidays every year, Veterans Day, Armed Forces Day, and the ever important Memorial Day, but this is very different. This is only going to happen once, and has only happened once. 250 years worth, quarter of a millennia. These branches of the military were formed before the Declaration of Independence. Our founding fathers knew what was coming, and they had to do something, and they formed first on June 14th, 1775, the United States Army, or what became today's Army. The Army was the backbone of the Revolution. They were the backbone at Cowpens here in South Carolina. It's the greatest tactical victory in the history of the U.S. military. They were the victors at New Orleans in the War of 1812, led by native South Carolinian Andrew Jackson. Foreign Army has never stepped on the soil of the United States since that battle. That was over 200 years ago. And no one can ever forget the Normandy invasions of June 6, 1944. It's still today the largest amphibious invasion in the history of the world, all done by the United States Army. On October 13, 1775, the United States Navy was formed. Some highlights of the Navy: the Battle of Manila Bay, probably the most lopsided naval battle in all of history. We lost nothing. They lost their entire Navy. In World War II, Leyte Gulf, the victors were the United States Navy in the largest naval battle in history. And the greatest naval achievement, the Battle of Midway in World War II. A scant 6 months after the deeds of Pearl Harbor, the U.S. Navy single-handedly turned around the war in the Pacific. And that battle can never go underrated. And the last, and definitely not least, the Marines, November 10th, 1775. I may come off as a little biased here. My brother's Marine. My great uncle was killed during the World War II as a Marine. The Marines have a storied history of striking fear in the hearts of their enemies. At Belleau Wood in World War I, the German army was having a particularly hard time in one sector of the wood, and they realized it was one brigade of Marines, and that's where they were given their today still nickname, Devil Dogs. At Tarawa in World War II, the Japanese commanding general said it would take 1 million men 100 years to take Tarawa. It took the Marines 72 hours. And at the Battle of Iwo Jima, probably the most iconic photo ever taken was at Iwo Jima. It was the bloodiest battle in Marine Corps history, and it stands today as the single the battle with the single most medals of honor awarded at 27 for one battle, and that's where my great uncle was killed. In conclusion, and thank you for your patience with me, we are all standing on the shoulders of generations of veterans from 1775 till today. And every year the military goes by. There's no one in this world that doesn't think our military is the greatest, has always been the greatest, and will continue to be the greatest because of the people who serve there. For the Vietnam veterans that may be in the room, welcome home. I know you didn't get the praise you deserved when you did what you did, so welcome home. I appreciate your time. I know I can't tell you how much it's meant to me to do this. I truly, truly, truly value the service of our veterans and our present-day armed forces. So thank you, everyone that's here that's a veteran. I appreciate y'all coming to listen to me and let me do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Rear. Although he has a career in the medical field, he also is a historian, so he has some expertise to talk about the things that he covered. This time I'll read the proclamation. Celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, Navy, and Marine Corps, whereas in 2025 we proudly commemorate the 250th anniversaries of the United States Army, founded on June 14, 1775, the United States Navy, founded on October 13, 1775, and the United States Marine Corps, founded on November 10, 1775 by the Second Continental Congress, and whereas these esteemed branches have defended our nation's freedom, security, and values through centuries of unwavering sacrifice and courage, from the Revolutionary War to modern conflicts across the globe, and whereas the Army, born before the Declaration of Independence, has safeguarded our land with valor, from Valley Forge to the multi-domain force of today's battlefields, and whereas the Navy, established to protect our shores, has secured our seas from the Barbary Wars to today's unmatched projection of power and massive global presence, and whereas the Marine Corps, renowned for its extraordinary spirit, has exemplified Semper Fidelis from the shores of Tripoli to its role today as the most formidable forward deployed force in the world. And whereas the men and women of these armed forces, past and present, have upheld the highest standards of honor, forging a legacy of heroism that inspires us all, and whereas their service strengthens our nation's resolve to uphold liberty, justice, and the American way. Now, therefore, I, Paul Shoemaker, Mayor of the City of Simpsonville, do hereby proclaim 2025 as a year of commemoration and gratitude, marking the 250th anniversaries of the United States Army, Navy, and Marine Corps, and I call upon the citizens of Simpsonville to join in honoring their enduring legacy with gratitude and a renewed commitment to supporting our service members and veterans, in witness whereof I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Simpsonville to be affixed this 19th day of November in the year of our Lord 2025. And Councilmember O'Rear, I'd like to, in honor of your family, present this official proclamation to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. Thank you all.
Item 5, approval of the minutes from October 14th, 2025. Each member of council has received a copy of the minutes. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as written. Item 6, citizen comments. We'll begin with Robert Jones. If you would come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
My name is Robert Jones. I live at 18 Cardiac Court in River Shoals. I'm just here to officially oppose the development for parcel number 2. I've lived there 14 years. And in 14 years, I have personally saw multiple accidents where West Georgia cannot handle all the traffic that's on that road. It's just overwhelming. Accidents, I witnessed myself, 2 people killed in 14 years in the curb right behind my house. And you want to know where every vehicle has ended up? Lot number 1 proposed in that parcel number 2. So I would recommend go back and look at the records and the accidents that curb has had. There's nothing been proposed on what's going to happen for the road itself to be able to help that out. The curb is dangerous as it is now. It's been that way for 14 years. And I might exaggerate when I say accidents every year, multiple injuries, physically pulled a guy off a motorcycle that was killed in that curb. It's just a dangerous curb. And I'm telling you, every vehicle has ended up where lot number 1 is. So I'm asking you to please pause this development and do some research on the road itself before there's ever a consideration of any kind of development in that small little area. We're talking 57 homes, probably 200 people extra just in that little area. There's no way we can handle that right now. That's my one concern. The other concern is the emergency road that is proposed to go into Rio Grande. I don't understand it. Who's going to take the cost? Whether homeowners of River Shoals are responsible, whether we're supposed to allow that to be able to just go through and be able to use as an access. Will it be gated? If it is, who's going to pay the expense? All those are concerns for us that create our HO fees that increase. And that's a very big concern for us. So there's been no proposal even to that before we get into approving any kind of development for that parcel. And then for me personally, I'm concerned about the setback. Again, you've got lot 1, 2, and 3 that's going to come directly behind my property. 14 years, I've lived there. Nothing's been there but a field, and it's been enjoyable. I'm not opposed to development at all. I'm just opposed to doing something that no one has thought through West Georgia. And I'm sure everybody here knows the traffic that's been on West Georgia, development that's happening, and we've got nothing done with the road itself. And I'm imploring you that curb is extremely dangerous, and no one should ever live at lot number 1 in that proposed parcel number 2. It's a concern. So those are my 3 real concerns of the road West Georgia with traffic, the emergency road that's proposed to be put through that just automatically popped up in what we've been sent and given, and then the setback information on us that own property that are backed right up to that particular property. So that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next is Allison Hanline.
Hello, my name is Allison Hanline. My address is 205 Rio Grande Place, also in River Shoals.
You can pick that microphone up and set it down on the podium. There you go.
Short people problems. I'm here to make a statement on behalf of the River Shoals HOA Board. I'm a member of the River Shoals HOA Board, the current acting vice president, and I'm here to make a statement regarding our current stance on this proposal for the lot that is encumbered by our neighborhood. River Shoals is a gated neighborhood with roads and common areas that are fully owned, maintained, and funded by our homeowners. We support responsible growth in Simpsonville, and we as a board aren't opposed to Tony Farms development or its annexation, but under long-term standing South Carolina law, no one may use, cross, or connect to private property without a voluntary written easement from the property owner. Currently, no easement exists that would grant Toll Brothers that right. Because of that, River Shoals cannot consent to any emergency access connection at this time. This is not a matter of preference, it's a matter of law. South Carolina courts have been clear for decades, private roads stay private unless the owner intentionally dedicates it and public authority formally accepts it. River Shoals has never dedicated its roads and the city has never accepted them. Annexation of a nearby development does not and cannot convert private subdivision roads into public infrastructure. Likewise, no easement can be imposed without the owner's consent or lawful eminent domain process, and that is simply not happening here. The city may require a developer to provide emergency access, but it cannot designate River Shoals private property as that route unless the HOA voluntarily agrees to terms. We want to emphasize that we are working in good faith. Our attorney is reviewing proposals and ensuring that any future agreement fully protects the rights of our homeowners. Before River Shoals can consider approval, we need clarity on the following issues. What exact portion of the land is being requested? Who owns and maintains the emergency access point? How is the emergency-only use guaranteed? And what legal protections ensure our private roads remain private now and in the future? These aren't extraordinary demands. They are simply the requirements of South Carolina property law and the standard due diligence responsibility of any HOA board. We want a solution that is workable, lawful, and clearly defined. We want an agreement that is mutually respectful and protective of all parties involved. But until our attorney completes negotiations and the HOA board reviews and votes on a finally legally sound proposal, River Shoals cannot grant any form of consent for connection to our privately owned roads. We look forward to continue the discussion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hanline. Next is Misty Reynolds.
My name is Misty Reynolds. I live at 119 Todd Circle in Simpsonville. I'm also a small business owner here in Simpsonville, and I like living here. It's a good town. I've never came with any complaints before. But I have a neighbor who has started some construction. And in this construction, my power was cut, my internet was cut. I missed a few days of work. It's been a problem. He tells me that he is a licensed contractor. So I look it up on SCLL&R is the only way I know, because I am a licensed person. So I can't find anything that says he is licensed, but he may be. So I came to the city. Myself and my husband went to the neighbor first to try to talk and say, you got to call 811. You have to do these things with this huge project that you're doing. It didn't go well. So I came to the city. I did not give the city my name, my address, or my phone number. I asked to be anonymous and said, please don't kick the hornet's nest. It's a big deal to me. The city did their inspection of the neighbor. I wanted to know if it was permitted as well. They did not give me that information at the time. I called back 3 weeks, a little more than 3 weeks later, still not giving my name, my address, or my phone number to ask if it was permitted. I was put on hold by the secretary, came back. It is permitted, they said. They don't have to display these. They're not for public to see, so I had no idea if it was or not. I think it should be by the road. When I did my project, you could see that it was permitted. I was asked to put it by the road so that everybody would know. So the city came. I saw them with my own eyes walk in the neighbor with my neighbor, and you can see that he's irate, pointing at my house, and I'm just like, here we go. 2 days later, my yard's been spray painted. My trees are all tied up, and he's saying this is his property. I have my survey. I am not an aggressive person. I do not like confrontation. I came to the city to help me because I knew that it was going to be a bad situation if he knew that I came to the city. That's why I said, please don't. And I did not give my information. I have a voicemail from the city addressing this particular problem, but I never gave my phone number. It's interesting to me how that happened. I have a letter. I have several things, but it doesn't matter here. What I'm coming here now is when someone who lives in Simpsonville comes to you and says, I am afraid of my neighbor. I need your help. Please don't tell them that I was here. You should take it seriously. We live in a world where people are mean. I am scared when my husband has traveled. We put up more security around our house. I came to the police. I'm doing everything that I feel is right and good, but I feel alone. I feel like people don't take it seriously. When you have to live beside someone and you're afraid, it matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ron Clyde.
Good evening, Council. It's Ron Clyde, 700 Northeast Main Street, Simpsonville. I didn't know I was signing up to speak.
Oh,
yeah,
you don't have to if you don't want to.
They asked me to sign up, so I did so. But it comes in pretty handy, especially in light of some of the comments that we've heard tonight and the fact that there's obviously ongoing developments and issues that are being addressed by council and by planning. The only aspect I might mention is that that there is a discussion between the Fire Marshal Marty Phillips and the developers that I actually had been privileged to, that indicates we could very well do away with that emergency ingress and egress for the fire department. And that, I guess, is about the only issue that I could bring to the attention of council at this time that's relevant to the discussions of tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Michael Kane, Toll Brothers. I was just going to say, I know it's on business agenda, but if y'all have any questions about it, we're happy to answer it tonight. We're here tonight.
We'll address that when we come to it in business.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is our business items. Pass this down to Clerk Clark for me, please. Item 7A, second reading of Ordinance O-2025-10, amending the business license ordinance to update the class schedule as required by Act 176 of 2020. I call on Director Tooley from our Finance Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. South Carolina's Act 176, the Business License Standardization Act, requires every municipality and county government with a business license tax to update its business licensing class schedule every odd-numbered year to go into effect the following year. As such, 2025 is a time to update your licensing practice to remain in compliance with state law. As required by Act 176, the class schedule updates use the latest statistical data on business profitability from the IRS, which then receives approval from the South Carolina Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office. The City of Simpsonville must adopt these by December 31st, 2025 to address those licensing renewals that will take place for the license year running from May 1st, 2026 to April 30th, 2027. Before January 1st, 2026, you should not use this updated class schedule and should instead continue using the current class schedule. Once the class schedule update is completed, you won't have to handle this process again until 2027. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tooley. A motion is in order. Councilmember Hutchings.
Mayor and Council, I make a motion to approve on second reading of Ordinance 0-2025-10, amending the business license ordinance to update the class schedule as required by Act 176 of 2020.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Hutchings with a second from Councilmember Roche. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed signify by saying no. That motion carries by a vote of 7-0. 7B, first reading of Ordinance O-2025-11, amend Code of Ordinances Section 8-41 and 8-42, technical codes. Director Derby, will you summarize, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. This is the ordinance to update our building codes that we govern and regulate in the city. These currently are done at the state level. Once they are passed, the city would do this through an ordinance stating that we are adopting the state code, something we used to do in the past. This ordinance will allow us to automatically update and use what the state is using for the building codes. So this makes it more streamlined, so you don't have to have a meeting to do this. We just automatically adopt what the state has. So nothing has changed since the committee of the whole, and I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Derby. A motion is in order. Councilmember Roche.
Mayor, I move that council approve first reading of Ordinance O-2025-11, amend Code of Ordinances Section 841 and 842, technical codes.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Roche with a second from Councilmember Pinkerton. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed signify by saying no. That motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Item 7C, first reading of AXZ-2025-03, annexation of property at 320 Tearose Lane. Mr. Derby, will you summarize, please?
Yes, sir. If you don't mind switching over to that slide. Thank you. Thank you, Council. This is 320 Tearose Lane. It is currently in the county at the end of Rosemont subdivision. The current zoning is R12. They are asking to be annexed into the city with the rest of the development, which is zoned R low. Nothing has changed from the committee of the whole, and I can answer any questions you might have.
The motion is in order. Councilmember Williams.
Mayor and Council, I move to approve the first reading of AXC 2025-03, annexation of property at 320 Tearose Lane.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Williams with a second from Councilmember Hutchings. Discussion? Councilmember Roop.
Since our last meeting, has any of the other three property owners showed any type of interest in coming in now that they know this has come before council?
We have not approached them since the last meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember O'Rear.
And I think I know the answer to this question. I just kind of want to point it out. This property, the city's already servicing everything in the light yellow, correct? So in other words, this we're not adding trips, we're not adding anything. This is just literally a nice little plug and go.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. I just want to, when you do an annexation, they're not out by themselves. So they're already there. So, all right, thank you.
Just to be clear as well, has city staff made sure that 316, 318, 319 are not getting trash pickup in those three properties?
Our Public Works Department has confirmed that there's no trash cans out there.
Perhaps when they see first trash week, 320's getting theirs, maybe they'll come out to the table. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hutchings.
At the last meeting, we discussed the police protection versus county sheriff for the properties that aren't annexed. Could you please go over how that would work again?
Their property now and 319, 18, and 16, if they were to need police protection, they would have to notify the sheriff's office. If this passes, 320 would get the city police services.
Council? Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. On the motion to approve on first reading of AXZ-2025-03, annexation of property at 320 Tearose Lane, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed signify by saying no. That motion carries by a vote of 7-0. 7D, first reading of AXZ 2025-04, annexation of property on West Georgia Road. Mr. Derby, would you summarize, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is the first reading of this ordinance. This West Georgia Road, west of East Standing Springs, is currently 31 acres in total. At the last meeting, we did include, which has been in your meeting packet, some added strips to connect these parcels. Again, the backstory of this, it was all one parcel years ago. The family has split this off. That's why it looks in this weird kind of 4 individual lots. The owner, who also owns those portions that are in yellow, has agreed to annex that 20-foot contiguous strip to make all 4 of these connected. Parcel on the left is 25 acres, and the larger one at the top is 4.3. They are looking for the R-mid zoning for a residential development of around 57 lots. At the last meeting, Ms. Roche, you asked what could be built here under the current zoning RS. RS has a minimum lot size of 25,000 square foot. From boundary to boundary, no roads, no storm ponds, no buffers. You're looking at about 43 homes. So obviously with the infrastructure in, that number is going to be reduced. So I can answer any questions you have. And just again, the ordinance has been updated in this packet from the last.
Thank you, Director. A motion is in order. Councilmember Pinkerton.
Yes, Council, I move to approve the first reading of AXZ-2025-04, annexation of property on West Georgia Road.
Second.
From Councilmember Pinkerton with a second from Councilmember Hutchings. Discussion? Councilmember Pinkerton.
Yes, sir. Thank you. When I got this package prior to the last meeting, I went through it and I had some concerns about contiguous property being put together, and this is why it ended up with these lines. I actually sent in a question to planning, and I got an answer from the attorney that said yes, it had to be a strip added to it. I do not like the idea of shoestringing property. It's legal. I think we're stretching ourselves out, but that's something that we have to consider. At the planning meeting, it was mentioned at the sale of this property would be a benefit to the owner from a financial standpoint. And that was brought up again in the last meeting as well, that of course it would be a financial benefit to the owner. And I don't have anything against that. It's the beauty of owning and selling property in the United States. But for taxes, it's a pretty lucrative business and it benefits a lot of different people. But that's something else I have to take consider. Traffic, of course, we've heard a lot about the traffic just here tonight, but I know I've ridden that road a few times. I used to go to work there, not there, but down that road 25 years ago, and it's built up quite a bit. Not all of it from the city, it's just county, various things are going on. But it is heavy in traffic, I get that. I personally, you may not agree with me, but I don't think it's ever going to get any better. The idea of a 4-lane road or even a turn lane continuous down that road will take lots of money and a lot of time, not to mention the possible of taking property. So that's a concern that we have to look at. So, Mr. Derby, one thing I have a question for you on when the planning, when you and your staff are looking at this property and annexation and with the commission, what is the benefit to the city for annexing this property in?
A lot of annexation, it gets you to keep growing, expanding your footprint. Looking at this, I talked with Mr. Roche. This would probably be the extent of where we would go on the west side of the city limits. In the end, you could be adding more properties. That's part of our comp plan extraterritorial map, which had us growing to this point, basically. So annexation is bringing more people into the city, more business, more opportunities. That's one of the bigger benefits of having it annexed into the city.
Well, yeah, that's all well and good in its time. I was concerned about this one. Right now, just to give you an example, obviously there would be some tax implications for us, right, if we built out there. Right now, as of today, the taxes that are being paid on all those properties is $75 a year to the county. Now, it's going to change because miraculously, the property value, the tax valuation of it has increased by 12,000%. And if you do the math, and I'm doing it on my own, I'm not a tax expert, but if we access that into the county or into the city would stand to gain about $1,500 a year on undeveloped land. Now, eventually it'll get more developed. I don't know how that works exactly, but has it ever been any kind of cost-benefit analysis to understand if you annex this property in and over time the amount of houses that get built into there when this becomes whole? Now, we're going to provide services there, mainly in trash pickup and things like that. And I get we're a big tent, and you don't have to school me on the fact that we have a lot of taxes coming in. Some of that can cover it. But from a annexation and hearing the terms over the years of sustainable development and sustainable growth, I don't understand how this fits into that mold. And that's a word that you can use in a lot of different contexts, sustainable growth. But I'm wondering that when in your planning, do we actually do any benefit analysis to say, yeah, over time this is going to be a financial benefit to the city?
Not that I'm aware of. Something we could definitely look into. In the past, a lot of annexations we had that, were denied, they turned around, went to the county, and developed the exact same thing that they got denied, or maybe a little less density. So those, they're going to still driving on the road. They're still coming into our city, but we're losing out on the other taxes that we would be getting from that. Otherwise, that's going straight to the county. So that's something that make a good point. That's something we can definitely kind of provide that more sort of planning commission and council.
And I know eventually if we annex in, and it'll get annexed in. We annexed in a property right down the road, right across the street, basically. And as of today, it's still in the county. I don't know how that works, but it's the church property that we annexed in. It's still in the county. And we have a lot of properties out there right now that aren't meeting their potential. Ward 5 has a couple that, there's 500 homes and there might be 100. And over time, if some of these properties had all the houses in them today, we'd probably have to have a whole new service department for a fleet of trucks, of trash trucks, et cetera, because, this, I just don't see this as sustainable. Plus, it's out of the way. I mean, if we build 2 houses there and we send out a garbage truck out of the way to go pick up the trash and the police department, it's just, to me, this just doesn't fit the mold of our vision of sustainable growth. Thank you.
Councilmember Roop.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I too have never been a fan of the shoestring annexation. Just in practice, I'm just not a fan of it. I don't think it's certainly not illegal or anything. I just don't particularly like how some of these things are drawn to get the property they should actually want. That's a side note. I've had some concerns with this. Typically, my concerns for annexations in the past have been adding traffic to our downtown area, which isn't sustainable. That's why I voted against just about every annexation that's come across in my 4 years. This one's a little different because it is out past the city. It is a very dangerous road. So I heard what was said tonight, and I agree. I think the issue is, and what I want the public to understand, even if we don't annex this into the city, it's still going to be built. I asked the builder at the last meeting if this was going to get built regardless, and he responded, correct. Has anything changed as far as their view on this getting built regardless of annexation in the city or not?
I will let them speak on that. I don't want to.
We'll circle back with that. The other question I asked the builder, and to make sure, and I asked several questions to make sure that these aligning properties were notified. I'm not saying that they were not, but if you remember, I said it's very weird that I haven't gotten any emails or calls about this, and we got flooded with emails and calls for a church that was going on over here. So I made that a point, and now we see out today, a lot of people are now aware of this. And this was my main concern at the last meeting. Not that they weren't notified. I'm not accusing anyone of not getting notified, but now the word is out, and this is what I thought may happen. We've also heard things like, well, the homeowner gets to sell his property. Nobody up here is denying anybody's right to sell property, whether we annex this into the city or not. He's still going to sell his property. So we're not dictating who can do what with their property. The thing that strikes me, the one where I am most leery now after hearing citizens' comments, specifically from, I believe it was the HOA president, and this emergency road and setback issues, when I hear that our lawyers are looking over things, that gives me great pause, which I had pause anyway. Until me personally, I cannot speak for council, I cannot in good conscience pass this even to the next meeting. I feel without this neighborhood getting proper representation and legal advice from their attorneys, if we are approving things that is, if what they are claiming is true, and that's, I'm going to stay out of all that. That's legal. That's between their lawyers and theirs. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I would have problem pushing this through, knowing that we could have some major issues. If you want to speak, Mr. Derby, to what the HOA president, I believe Ms. Hanline, did I say that correctly, was speaking to, perhaps the builder can speak to this as well. We can get it out in the public and talk to what she and her neighborhood is claiming. It might help a lot. And this is what I was worried about the last meeting, the surrounding properties, and now we're seeing that it is an issue. Can you speak to any of that, or would the builder?
Sure.
Okay.
The ordinance requirement is 14 days prior to the planning commission meeting for abutting property owners. Those went out. I think when that ordinance was written a couple years ago at direction of the mayor, I think the mail was more, I say, efficient. COVID hit, and ever since then, the mail has been, unfortunately, it's been slower. So I've had some of these come in after the meeting. So that's something we can look at as probably extending that notification out further. The property is posted 30 days before the meeting. It's in the newspaper and on our website, so it's done per our regulations, as well as the budding property owners. It's just unfortunate, I guess, they don't get there in time prior to that planning commission meeting. Again, it's unfortunate because those go to property owners in the county. They're allowed to speak at the planning commission meeting. The access point in the back, I just wanted to remind council, this is just an annexation for the zoning designation. What they have as a plan could change. So once it goes before our fire marshal for review, there might be a requirement that they don't need a fire access. These are just things that they're trying to prepare for in the indication that they have. So as far as getting that in writing in concrete, that's going to have to be done once they actually have a plan showing what's required by the fire marshal.
But if I may interrupt for a moment, if we annex this in, we don't get to approve or disapprove those plans, correct?
No, correct. You're just proving zoning.
You see what we're voting. I know we're voting on annexation, but it's more complicated than that because we've seen their plans and they've seen their plans. If their plans are not legal, then I can only go by what I've seen. If those plans aren't legal, and I don't know until we hear from their lawyers and their lawyers and work it out, I don't know. So this should almost, in a way, I'm not suggesting that we table it. I'm just saying I don't think that I have enough information to pass this through. That's where I'm going with this.
If I can just add a little more, whatever the plan comes out to be, if the fire marshal would say that 100 homes requires 2 fire access. If they can't get 2 fire access from the abutting property owners, they don't get to an approved plan. So those are things that will go through the review process. Just north of that, Graythorn, they have one access into their lot, and they have a fire access, which is the very top home on that screen. It's a wide 20-foot strip. So that could be something else they might be asked to do by the fire marshal, which would change the plan you have here, the layout. So there's a lot of things that can happen once they actually get the engineering out there and do the grading, do the survey analysis for what's possible. So that access in the back might not even be required. But if it is required by the fire marshal, they would have to get that obtained. And if they can't, then they wouldn't get approval from our fire marshal.
Okay. Let me just say this in closing. Just because there's many of you here, this seems like a way to explain how we as a city are there's a lot of hand tying on what we do. People say, man, what was the most frustrating thing with your first term? This is one of those, because we're talking about adding potentially a subdivision that we have no control over that road. And if you petition the DOT, which they've looked at this traffic study, and they came back with, not official turn lanes, but some type of median turn lane, they're not going to widen that road. And even if they said, hey, it needs to be widened, there's roads that we have a 30-year waiting list on with the DOT now. And we're the largest county in the state. So there has to be some set of reality set in that we can stop annexations. We can't stop building. We can't just make roads bigger because this subdivision is coming. So it is very frustrating on our end. I know it's frustrating for the public, but I did want to explain that that's not how that works. Also, if we pass this annexation, we don't get to approve or disapprove their plans because they're getting in as an annexation, and we will have really no say-so of how they build. If we vote it down, the county will more than likely approve it, but then we have no say-so. The city cannot go in and tell them how to do things. So it's kind of a win-lose no matter how you look at it, because it seems to me, at least what the builder said, this is going to go in regardless. Our decision is, are we annexing into the city? And I think that's how we have to look at it. But I do have a lot of concerns with the legality of this at this point. So I will rest. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Rear?
Thank you, Mayor. I share some similar concerns. But I'll start off this way. Growing up, if you asked Mom and Mom gave you a decision, if you went and asked your dad, you were in trouble. So we're starting this conversation with, well, if you don't annex us, we're just going to go to the county. And that's not a good way to start a conversation, really. To give, that's kind of like an ultimatum at this point. Do what we say, or we're just going to stay with the county. And so that begs to ask, why are we even bothering this? That's just starts it off on the wrong foot for me. But I'll go through my list. Shoestrings, and this is for the city. I don't like them. I think it's nonsense, but I know it's legal. Has the city ever imposed on itself a maximum amount of a shoestring they would do? Because this is a double shoestring. They're both relatively short, but it's a double shoestring. Has the city ever come to a decision on what's the maximum shoestring or the maximum amount of shoestrings? Because we could play that game all day long. We could annex stuff over in Pickens if we wanted to, I imagine. But has the city ever thought, well, okay, we're going to do this one, but this is the maximum of this. We're going to do a maximum of it. See, that's what I'm saying. We're opening ourselves up for the next guy to come along and go, well, we can shoestring this. You did this guy too. We only need an extra one. What's to stop the third? And then what's to stop the half-mile shoestring to get to another property? And that's where I don't like living in the world of what ifs and guesses. And that's what's come up here in Councilmember Rupp. I appreciate you getting that. We don't have all this information. So if we say no tonight and they go to the county, we know what's going to happen there. If they're required to have a second exit or entrance, which, if you don't mind, could you point on there where that would be? Because that's, I'm glad that the folks that came and spoke pointed that out. So you're looking at, and if whatever they're saying is right, that they're literally having to traverse other people's properties. If they're required by the county to have that, and they can't get it done, this property's done. But we don't know that. But the problem is that it seems like when you say we got to go to the fire department, aren't there historic decisions on this?
Are there what?
Historic decisions, like the fire. They went out, they had a similar property. This is the decision they made. It's kind of like law. They have precedents. Why are these things still up in the air? It's hard to ask someone, whether it's us or you or anyone, make a decision, but we're not going to give you all the information. Because like Councilmember Rupp said, once we say yes, it's out of our hands. We turned down an annexation, and I was thankful for Councilmember O'Shea and Councilmember Hutchings at the time, because they changed what they wanted to do between the times of the annexation or the potential annexation and when they wanted to build. They changed the complete model. And that's not fair to the people of Simpsonville. It's not fair to ask us to do that. And I'm kind of, and I'll move on to something that Councilmember Pinkerton brought up. Unless something's different happened, my understanding is this is going to be built piecemeal. Is that correct?
This development
yes.
right here? No, it's supposed to be done one time.
So we're going to build all 57 properties built out at one time. Well, that's good. That at least answers that part. But I'm with Councilmember Pinkerton. Cost benefits of this, and I'm going to say this because I can. We don't collect impact fees. So from the very first second that we roll in there, we are in the red. And we will be in the red for I don't know how long. It's going to be years, though. because we're extending services before we ever collect taxation. And while we're collecting the taxation, we're still extending services. So it depends on numbers as to what the period of time looks like. So I don't think that's fair to the people of Simpsonville to have to front their money to develop something that we may or may not recover for years. And not to mention, and I know Mr. Folks out there somewhere, I understand the whole roads thing. Those things are expensive. And if they put down a low-grade road because they don't have to worry about maintaining it in the future, the city does, then where in that time frame are we going to start repairing that? And that's brutally expensive. So now we get farther in the red. So it's not, from a financial standpoint, beneficial for the city to annex most properties unless you're going to collect a fee ahead of time. But it's not financially feasible that I see in most scenarios. And this is one of them. But the thing that concerns me is the exit, because we don't have clarity behind that. And I couldn't imagine any entity would force a privately held body to give up access into something they own. So they're not going to get a second entrance. So you know the county's going to say no. That's why we're here. We know the county's going to say no. We're phrasing it like, well, we'll go to the county. That's not going to happen. So I just need more information. I can't be expected to make a decision based off of the lack of information, because once we do, and if it's yes, we have literally lost the process for the taxpayers of Simpsonville. And that's my concern here. But thanks for your time.
If it's all right with council, can we have one of the builders come up and make sure to clarify some of this? I got the engineer and the builder. They like to.
I don't mind waiting until the end to gather it all up, if that's okay with y'all. I mean,
Councilmember Roche?
All right, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I agree with much of what has been said. Whether they build within the county as residential suburban or they come into the city and increase that density, it's probably going to get built one way or the other. I'm also not a fan of the shoestring model here that we're seeing, where my feeling on that is that it is in keeping with the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. I'll let everyone mull that over. It feels wrong if you've got to obtain a little 20-foot strip and be able to somehow get it across the street to the property you want to annex. It means it's not actually contiguous. And I realize that we can do different things, gymnastics, to make that happen, but it just doesn't seem to be keeping within the spirit of the law. I don't see a benefit to the city in this yet. These plans can change. We can't really hold them to this. If we did approve it, it could change tomorrow. I don't see a financial benefit. What I do see is a traffic study, which I asked for page number 12 last time. Is it available this time?
We can look at that. Can you tell me what page that's on?
Tony Farms 12. Let me look. Shoot. I only see it within the Tony Farms.
Oh, I can do it this way.
Okay.
Am I getting close?
I think you are. Almost. When you see traffic study, it'll.
We'll put it this way.
Okay. We're getting there, yeah. Page 12. So it'll be the next one, yeah. I think.
This?
Yes, that one.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, for everybody's benefit, LOS, level of service. So if you look at this traffic study by SCDOT, West Georgia Road and Moore Road with existing right now, without construction, is graded F, okay? We all know what an F means, right? If we don't build in 2027, it's still an F. I'm looking at the eastbound line, just the eastbound line. And if we do build, allow them to build in 2027, we're still at an F. We're just at a worse F than we were, both AM and PM. West Georgia Road and Barker Road, we're at an E, westbound. We're at an F, existing, westbound. If we don't build, we're still at an F. If we do build by 2027, we're at a worse F. There's no good answers here for as far as traffic goes. And until SCDOT sees the need to help us, and the county, sees the need that we see, there's not going to be any great answers there. I know this. I know I'm not going to add to the problem. I'm not going to vote in such a way that adds to this. That's what I can do. That's about all I can do. There's so much we can't control. My vote will not make this worse than it already is. And that's it. I don't see a benefit to the city. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
I have a question. On this map, the emergency access, is that entirely on the property for annexation? Because it looks like it almost completely is, except when it goes down the road for the neighborhood.
I think that is an existing sewer easement that was kind of designed, but they haven't using that area as the...
Like all the way at the top.
Councilmember Williams, can I add a point of a clarification? If you go back, the issue isn't the road through the existing property. The issue is connecting to the existing Rio Grande Place, which is private property.
Right, and they would have to have permission from everybody in that area, down almost, I guess, through most of that neighborhood. So like everybody else said, I mean, if we approve this for annexation or not, the development is going to be built. It does, I believe in the traffic study, say that it would require, or it would suggest putting in a left-hand turn lane into the neighborhood. Is there any way to make sure that happens before the development is fully built? Or is that just up to SCDOT as to whenever they get to it?
What they require from SCDOT will be on the plans that are submitted to us for review. They'll have its own encroachment permit. Will have to be inspected and signed off by the DOT that it meets their standards of what's on those plans. Mm-hmm. In those situations when we have a neighborhood, we make sure what is needed by DOT or the owner of the road is put in the time that it's needed.
Okay. So that would help alleviate some of that traffic going in and out of that neighborhood. I don't have a problem moving this on to the next meeting just because it's not an approval, and I think some things could change before the next reading. The shoestrings, I don't really like the shoestrings either because it bounces around a lot, but with this all being owned by the same owner, I believe at some point there might be potential where some of that could be filled in further in the future, so it wouldn't be so scattered. But I think if this is a property that would be sold and built regardless of whether we annexed in, it might provide some kind of benefit for the city. But I would like to see if any of this changes, because if they're not going to get that, is there a way to do an emergency access without going through the neighborhood? Or is that something they can look into?
They can look into that. Like I say, with the neighborhood above that, they didn't have the opportunity to tie in anywhere else. Okay. So the fire marshal at that development required it. They found a way which they put it next to the entrance. It's pretty common. Sometimes you wouldn't notice it's just a grassed over entrance where there's no buildings. So, and in this case, if they couldn't get it, they would have to get it somewhere else. Otherwise, you wouldn't get an approval from a fire marshal.
Okay. Well, as of now, I could pass it through to the second reading and see if anything changes between now and then. But if it's still of main concern, I don't want to reduce the quality of life for anybody who lives in that area. And if this would cause that to happen, I don't want to be a part of that approval. So that's my feeling on that one. So far.
Councilmember Hutchings?
Am I hearing correctly that we have to annex it before we can see a plan? Is that what you're saying?
Annex it to...
Before we can see an approved plan, we have to annex it first? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not hearing the second part.
Do we have to annex the property before we can see an approved plan for the property? Is that...
Correct. They would have to annex it to be part of the city for them to submit plans to us.
For clarification, though, those plans would be submitted to the planning department, would not come back to council.
Right.
So they could change this plan to a different layout as long as it meets the zoning that we would annex them into.
That's correct.
And has this plan been, or this idea been presented to county at any point?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
But the statement was made that if we don't do it, county will do it.
I don't know exactly. Again, I'll let one of the owner representatives speak on that. I made that comment because that's what's typically happened in the past. Not that I'm stating what they've said, but that's what's happened in the past with properties that have been denied with the city. We've seen them go to the county.
As far as SCDOT requests, I guess you'd call them, do we have any assurance that these things are going to happen, like the turn lane into the property, the widening of the access to widening at some point? Is there any assurances that those things will happen?
We have both the engineer for the site as well as the traffic engineer that can weigh in on those updates with SDDOT if you want clarification.
I got a lot of emails on this, so I'm trying to go through some of these questions. There on the plan, it indicates that there's water on that property, and I believe at one point during the last conversation that there was a statement made that there wasn't water. Is there or is there not water, and is there any flooding issues that have been addressed or need to be addressed?
Again, I'll let the engineer address that. I know at the last meeting they did have a survey done to identify any kind of wetlands out there, and it's not as prominent as you see on that map right there. But again, I can have let the engineer kind of explain what is out there, what they found from their survey.
Well, I'm hearing from the other council members a lot of questions that aren't being answered right now, that we can't answer until the annexation occurs, and I too don't feel comfortable with that. I feel like that we're passing something that is kind of like a bill you have to pass before you can see what's in it, that kind of thing. So I wouldn't be in favor of doing it, of voting yes on this at this time.
Council? So let's start with, for my part of this, let's bring the engineer to the microphone and maybe they can discuss some of the items that have been brought up by council.
Hey everyone, thanks council. I'm Charlie Greer at Seaman Whiteside, 366 Juniper Bend Circle. I'm the civil engineer on this one. So to start with your questions, the wetland delineation, we got a wetland delineation done by a certified wetland consultant. None of those were actually deemed as wetlands. There was a small, and I'm going to walk up here and point to it, there was a small stream that was considered wetland that we're buffering and doing all the proper precautionary measures for, and we'll have to do required by permitting. So the only thing that's a wetland is right here in this corner. So we're not doing anything around that corner. We're going to protect that. There are also no flooding issues. There's no floodplains on site, and we're going to detain water like we're required to by the state, so there won't be any. We're actually going to improve water flow off the site. We're required to. And then I want to speak a little bit to the emergency access. So one, that is all on our property. The thing is, it does touch and would have to tie into the private road, but I want to clarify that that's not required. We can also do an alternate to where our proposed road coming into the site right now is 24 feet wide. We can expand it to 26 feet wide up to the first intersection in lieu of the emergency access. So we don't have to do that at all. So that's not a requirement, and we're happy to get rid of it if that's a concern to the adjacent neighbors. And then I also want to speak onto the DOT portion. So we've got a traffic engineer here. He's done the study. It's approved by DOT, and I want to state out that DOT requires us to do those improvements before they would allow us to do any sort of building on the site. So our access is not permitted until we have all those roadway improvements in, and DOT wouldn't let us do anything in the site unless it's in. So all those road improvements would have to be done before any house is built. So I'll let the builder speak, unless there are any other questions for an engineer.
Follow up to what he said.
Councilmember Rube?
Yeah, just to follow up on what you said. The DOT, we can't even get the DOT to do streets.
No, I understand.
And we're elected officials, and we're after them every day. Correct, Administrator? Yeah, we're after them every day. So what happens when they tell you, or you tell me how your conversation goes with them, when you say, hey, we want to build some houses, and they say, well, you got to wait for us to put in this turn lane.
So the developer is actually responsible for installing the turn lane, not DOT. So the way you get road improvements done is you do development, and the developer fronts the cost of the work, not DOT. DOT
Right.
requires it, but they get a free improvement to a DOT road. So that's how improvements get made 90% of the time.
So
10% of the time,
yeah,
DOT.
the financial side, but you would actually be implementing the work.
Yes, Toll Brothers would be paying for the entirety of the improvements, not DOT. DOT would require it, and if they didn't do it, they would go shut down their access into their site.
So you're paying for it and doing it?
Yes.
And are they approving it as you go along? Is there
Yes,
checks?
they have to go do inspections after it's
Okay.
done and certify it. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I think that's a real important point. There was something said earlier about all the money that it was going to cost the city to do this. You guys are doing all of the work. You'll put in all of the sewer.
Yes, sir.
You put in you build all of the streets, the curbs, the sidewalks.
Yes.
That's not an expense to the city up front. And in fact, the only place where we would be spending money after a neighborhood would be built would be for
trash service.
Patrol and picking up sanitation, which there's a sanitation fee that gets charged to the homeowner, which covers that. So
that brings up another point I want to clarify. The roads, I think something was mentioned about the roads being maintained by the city. It is maintained by the city at the end of the day, but there's a warranty period and there's approval processes that we have to go through with city engineers that, they won't sign off on a road unless it meets certain standards, compaction, geotech requirements, et cetera. And they'll have to approve it and accept it. They won't just say, all right, there's a road, we're good. They're going to go do the tests and make sure it's good so that they know they're not getting a road that's going to fail in a year or two that you're just going to have to then pay. So there's checks and balances there that we're not going to, deliver y'all a road that's not up to your standards.
Okay. Anything further from this group?
I'm happy to come back if needed.
Well, we can call you back if you go ahead if you have anything you want to add.
If I may, Council, I appreciate your time tonight. Again, Michael Kane with Toll Brothers, 124 Verde Boulevard, Suite 203, Greenville, South Carolina. As mentioned at the previous meeting, I think the question was, what does Toll bring to the opportunity? We're actually both a developer and home builder, which is a unique situation. You're going to see us from start all the way as we get through to our HOA. So this is a unique situation for Simpsonville. This is where we've been working with Mr. Tony since we went under contract. This is an opportunity with y'all to have America's luxury home builder here in Simpsonville. We have many communities around this area, and I would ask that y'all please visit those. But I believe even our land acquisition manager even told y'all where we would be from a price point standpoint. But we see this as a partnership long term, ultimately with y'all, which is one of the reasons we wanted to be here in Simpsonville. But I'm happy to answer any other questions y'all may have. I appreciate Charlie answering a lot of the technical stuff. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Derby, I have a question for you that has to do with the notices that went out. You mentioned that maybe the 14 days isn't enough time. Do we need to revisit that ordinance and change that number?
It probably would be a good idea to do that.
21, 28?
I think 21.
We can talk about that if we
Correct.
go back to that ordinance, but okay. I think we probably need to revisit that so that we make sure that potential neighbors are notified when these developments come up. It's gone both ways in how council has anticipated what county council's action would be if we turned this down and the developer was to take it to county. I agree with Councilmember O'Rear. There's a different makeup on county council right now. It's likely that they would turn this down. So if we turn this down, then we have a property owner who is in desperate need of this money. She's now receiving advanced medical care as a senior citizen. She needs this money for her care, and we would be telling her no. And I don't think you can count on the county to just automatically approve it. I don't believe that will happen either. So it's a form of no that really concerns me. What concerns me is I know we've got a lot of neighbors who have appeared tonight. Some of them have spoken. And kind of a common theme is there, in my opinion, I just moved here. I've lived here 40 years. We have a council member who is born and raised here his whole life. But we have people who are now here saying, I just moved here, and now that I'm here, don't let anybody else move here. Because that road belongs to me, the traffic. We're going to turn down a woman who desperately needs to sell this property because of the traffic. And I agree, traffic is a problem, but in comments that I'm receiving in emails, I'm having a hard time driving my kids to school. Well, you're contributing to the traffic. Put your kids on the bus. If you don't believe schools aren't driving a huge amount of traffic, you haven't paid attention to what the traffic is like in the summer. I'll get off of that soapbox, but you need to go talk to the school board about traffic. I'm going to get back on the soapbox. They're moving Bryson Middle School to Fairview Road below Publix. You want to talk about the traffic impact? Has anybody gone and talked to the school board about that? So I'm really concerned about turning this down. I think that it's not as easy as everybody thinks to get this approval. The other advantage to us bringing this in under our annexation is we get to impose our rules on what that neighborhood looks like. The quality of the streets, sidewalks, all those kind of things. The DOT will require what they require, regardless of whether it's in the city or in the county. We don't really have a whole lot of impact on that. But as far as what the quality of the neighborhood is, I think that probably the primary reason somebody wants to annex, and by the way, Simpsonville City does not go pursue annexation. The property owner has to ask, and it's the property owner who is asking for this, not Toll Brothers. It's the property owner who is asking for the annexation. They have to ask to come into the city of Simpsonville. That's pretty much true for 5 out of 6 cities in Greenville County. There is one city that's a little more aggressive on their annexation, but even that's extremely difficult. It's why cities in South Carolina typically remain smaller than they do in other states. So I like the idea that we get to have some say-so in what this looks like. If we're going to arrive at this impact, I like that we at least get to say how wide the roads get to be and what the sidewalks look like and that kind of thing. But the true advantage, the true reason for coming in is if you live in the county, and the folks who are here from River Shoals, you should know this, call 911. How long does it take for a deputy sheriff to show up? Average response time is 15 minutes, and that's in the daytime. At night, it can be 45 minutes. Average response time in Simpsonville is about 4.5 minutes. Daytime, nighttime, that's the average response time. So there is a true advantage to annexing into the city. We provide better services, and that's why a developer would be interested in having their neighborhood. It's a selling point for these homes. And I think it's a selling point for the property owner and enables them to realize a better sales price. So I'm in favor of this just because I support the property owner. I don't like the idea of, well, you're just too late to the party. Everybody's already created all the traffic. Sorry. I'm in favor of moving forward with this. Councilmember Hutchings.
One more time. This is the first reading tonight. If we were to pass it on to the second reading, is there any information that we don't have tonight that we might be able to get before the second reading?
What information?
Any questions that we've had that might be answered before this next vote?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what you're. Again, a lot of this is a concept plan that they're providing, so there's nothing really answers to have until that plan is submitted to us, and that plan could change depending on what they're allowed to do. So as far as are they going to have an access, are they going to be required an access, I can provide you at the next meeting what that threshold is from our fire marshal, if it's 56 homes or if it's 100 homes. But as far as where that access would be, again, that stuff's going to happen during the planning process with the engineers. But
Mayor, could I make a brief comment?
Councilor?
I've listened carefully to council's comments, which are well thought out, and I appreciate. I think it's good for me to just provide a little clarity on the decision before council. You're deciding an annexation and zoning of undeveloped property. So you are to decide what's in the best interest of the city, and you have very wide latitude in deciding what's in the best interest of the city. In any annexation of undeveloped property, you are not going to see final engineered plans and drawings. You're going to see concepts. So in terms of getting from the developer what this is going to look like on a final development plan, that's not going to be in any annexation of undeveloped land something that's before you. So the question before council, and I've heard pros and cons from council in a good debate, is what do you feel is in the best interest of the city and of the residents of Simpsonville? So that's the decision you're making.
Any further discussion from council? On the motion to approve on first reading of AXC-2025-04, annexation of property on West Georgia Road, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed signify by saying no.
No.
Ready.
Will you do a roll call vote, please, Clerk Clark?
Councilmember O'Rear.
No.
Councilmember Root.
No.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Roche.
No.
Councilmember Pinkerton.
No.
Councilmember Hutchings.
No.
Mayor Shoemaker.
Yes. That motion fails by a vote of 5 noes to 2 yeses. First reading of Amending Code of Ordinances, Section 16-4, Wards and Boundaries. Mr. Pinkerton, will you summarize, please?
Yes, sir. Council, this was brought up at the last meeting, and this is the first reading of it. There's only change to it is the actual ordinance itself was in your package. So that's the only difference. So I move to approve on the first reading of Amending Code of Ordinances, Section 16-4, Wards and Boundaries.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pinkerton with a second from Councilmember O'Rear. Discussion? Councilmember Hutchings.
Could you explain what your objective is here to with this amendment? I'm not quite sure I'm clear on that.
Well, in the ordinances, under that section, it actually stated that our elections and processes would be based on the wards and boundaries of 2010, I think was right. And we're in 2025.
That's not right. I mean, that's not what happened.
I know it. I'm just saying that that's what's in the ordinance is written. I realize that there was a resolution, if nothing else, or an ordinance passed by council to approve the latest boundaries, but it's just not written that way in the actual code of ordinances. It's just a cleanup. And it essentially says, I'd have to pull it up, but it would be based on the last, I think the word's decennial census taken.
So the maps were redrawn in 2021 based on the 2020 census. So what you're saying is the ordinance doesn't agree with that. Is that correct?
The written word of the ordinances within the ordinances of that section state is 2010. And again, council did pass an ordinance or resolution, I can't remember, but they did pass a decision to go on the 2020 ordinances.
Correct.
Yes. So you're not asking for the maps to be redrawn?
No.
Okay.
It's just a cleanup of the ordinances themselves. I mean, if it says one thing, and if you are a member of the public and you go to the ordinances and maybe you're running for election, you go, oh, okay, I'm going by this ward map. It doesn't exist anymore. So it's just clarifying that we're using the latest census.
Thank you.
Council? If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. On the motion to approve on first reading of amending Code of Ordinances Section 16-4 wards and boundaries, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed signify by saying no. That motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Item 8, executive session to discuss employee compensation. All right, so a motion is in order. Councilmember Roche?
Mayor, I move that council move into executive session to discuss employee compensation.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Roche with a second from Councilmember Pinkerton. Is there any discussion? On the motion to enter executive session, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed signify by saying no. That motion carries by a vote of 7-0. No action will be taken in executive session except to adjourn or return to public session. Council will not commit this public body to a course of action by a polling of members in executive session. City Council has voted to enter into executive session as allowed under South Carolina Code 30-4-70, Paragraph A, Subparagraph 1, for the purpose of discussing compensation of employees. Upon coming out of executive session, council may reconvene the meeting to take action on matters discussed in executive session. I do anticipate that we will return to public session to do that. City Council is in executive session. Simpsonville City Council has returned to public session. We call on Sherry Roche, Councilmember Roche, for matters arising out of executive session.
Mayor, I move that council authorize the city administrator to expend funds to address equitable compensation concerns in the police department.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Roche. Who was the second?
Both of us.
I'll pick Councilmember Pinkerton for the second. Discussion? I have one comment. This is addressing compensation concerns in the police department. I consider this a small step in what we hope will be additional steps to keep addressing these issues. Any further discussion? Councilmember O'Rear.
Yeah, I just want, and the mayor's correct. It's a small step. I want everyone to know that the city of Simpsonville appreciates their officers. They want the best officers. And compensation is part of that, and we want to make sure that we're as equitable as we can be in the area, because there's not many jobs that you can rank above in the nature of danger, and it's a dangerous job, and we appreciate what they do. And I know the citizens, they want to hear that. They're concerned about it too. Some people come to meetings and hear about some gaps of officers, things like that. And I just want people to know that we're on top of that. We're doing, we're going to try to make it, Chief Hanshaw and the crew over there is easy as we can to staff and protect the people of Simpsonville. So just want people to know the council does notice that, and we're working to do that.
Thank you. Councilmember Hutchings.
I just want to reiterate that point Mr. O'Rear brought forward, that I think I can speak pretty much for all of us, that we all fully support the police department, and we want to make sure that they get equitable pay, and we're working toward that goal.
Council? On the motion to authorize the city administrator to expend funds to address the equitable compensation concerns in the police department, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed signify by saying no. That motion carries by a vote of 7-0. This concludes our business for this evening. If there are no objections, we will stand adjourned.